Yes. Good afternoon. Today, my topic of discussion is acid-base balance. As it is a well-versed topic, I will go briefly uh, on this topic. So, we'll touch the basics of acid-base balance and type of simple acid-base disorder, approach, and clinical cases. So, why acid-base hemostasis is essential? That is the foremost question. Because most of the enzyme function only with narrow pH range, which is essential for all the function, all the enzymatic function to act. So it also affects the membrane function and alter protein function also. So within this narrow therapeutic pH range, hormone also act normally. And this homeostasis of pH is tightly controlled in the range of 7.35 to 7.45. So, if pH is falling below the 7.35, we will call it as acidosis, and more than 7.45, we call it as alkalosis. And the main contributing factor for the acid-base homeostasis is the acids. So, mostly it is broadly divided into two. One is volatile acid, which is formed by the carbonic acid, and it usually formed by the oxidation of carbohydrate, fat, and protein, and excreted through mainly by lungs as carbon dioxide gas. And other are the fixed acid, which are formed in very little amount, and it was usually eliminated by the kidney, and it is formed by the metabolism of the sulfur containing amino acid and phospholipid and nucleic acid metabolism. So to control this pH range, so basically there is three-tier system is working inside our body. One is buffer system, another is our respiratory regulation of the pH, and is the renal regulation. So basically buffer is the first line of defense, and usually there is broadly it is divided into bicarbonate and non-bicarbonate buffer system. And the limitation of the buffer system is its action is very limited. It don't eliminate the hydrogen ion, and mostly it instantaneously regulate the pH, but it is within very narrow range. So and the second tier system is the respiratory regulation, which eliminate or retain carbon dioxide according to the pH disturbances, and change in pH is rapid and occurs within minutes. And that usually helps in acute pH management. But renal regulation is the third line of defense, which usually act by the movement of bicarbonate or retention or excretion of the acid and generating additional buffer. So this usually helps in the chronic compensatory mechanism of the pH imbalance. So it is a long-term regulator and may take hour to day. So if we come across with the acid-base disorders, so most common are the respiratory acidosis and respiratory alkalosis, and metabolic acidosis and metabolic alkalosis. So I'll go briefly regarding respiratory acidosis. Usually, the primary defect is the rise in the partial pressure of carbon dioxide, which lead to decrease in pH, and it is because of primary excess of carbonic acid. And in acute phase, there will be a rise in CO2 and fall in pH. But in chronic condition, pH will be in normal to near normal range. So these are the most common cause of respiratory acidosis we come across every day. So, but there is a huge range of causes of respiratory acidosis, starting from CNS depression to our neuromuscular impairment like our high spinal cord injury and myasthenia gravis crisis and muscle dysfunction, and ventilatory restriction like refracture, diaphragmatic palsy, and pneumothorax, kyphoscoliosis, and upper airway obstruction like foreign body, OSA, angioedema, and lower airway obstruction, which is more commonly seen as asthma and COPD, and disorder involving the alveoli is like bilateral pneumonia and infiltrative lung disease, perfusion related like massive pulmonary embolism and cardiac arrest. So all these can cause respiratory acidosis. So if we then we'll look about the compensation in the respiratory acidosis. The mostly acute respiratory acidosis is compensated by the buffer system, and it usually happens that for 10 mm increase in partial pressure of carbon dioxide, there will be rise in 1 milli equivalent of bicarbonate, And in chronic respiratory acidosis, this compensation is mainly done by the kidney, and in increase in renal absorption of bicarbonate acid and excretion of the ammonium ion through the urine cause this compensation, and usually 4 milliequivalent of bicarbonate increases for 10 mm increase of partial pressure of carbon dioxide. So, so what happened in respiratory acidosis? Briefly, in CNS, there will be increase in cerebral blood flow leading to the raised ICT, and which will cause later CO2 narcosis, confusion and headache, and disorientation. And in severe case of respiratory acidosis, patient can land up to the coma. And in if you go to the cardiovascular system, so usually hypotension and tachycardia and bounding pulse is usually seen, and due to peripheral vasodilation, warm plus sweaty peripheries can be seen. And other thing we can see in respiratory acidosis is flapping tremor. So we'll go to the respiratory alkalosis. The basic main reason for the respiratory alkalosis is the decrease in carbonic acid. Sorry, it is mistyped. So most common acid-base abnormality seen in critical ill patient. So acute is decrease in partial pressure of carbon dioxide leading to alkalitic pH. And in chronic condition, pH will be normal to the normal range. So, if we go to the causes of respiratory alkalosis, most common is the CNS stimulation in anxiety, fever, pain, or meningitis, and CVA and tumor can also cause respiratory alkalosis. And hypoxemia or tissue hypoxia can lead to trigger in respiratory center, which indirectly can cause respiratory alkalosis, like high altitude anemia, septicemia, hypotension, and pulmonary embolism can cause. And drug like progesterone salicylate can cause respiratory alkalosis. And miscellaneous cause like hepatic failure and cardiac failure, heat exposure and mechanical ventilation can cause respiratory alkalosis. So, in for compensation of respiratory alkalosis, initial acute compensation done by the buffer system, and usually 2 milliequivalent drop in bicarbonate ion for 10 mm fall in carbon dioxide. And in chronic respiratory alkalosis, renal compensation will take place, and there will be fall of 5 milliequivalent of bicarbonate ion per 10 mm fall in CO2. So basically, in respiratory alkalosis, there will be increase in neuromuscular irritability, tetany, and lightheadedness, confusion due to decreased cerebral blood flow, which is reverse of the respiratory acidosis. And in cardiovascular system, there will be a decrease in myocardial contractility and arrhythmia. And other thing can happen like hypokalemia and hypophosphatemia and decreased free serum calcium, which is later give to tetany. So we'll go to the next disorder is metabolic acidosis. Here the main reason of the reason for this disorder is gain of strong acid or loss of base. So here is the primary defect is the decrease in bicarbonate ion due to the loss of base or gain in strong acid. So in anion gap, there will be index of first, to assess metabolic acidosis, we have to determine anion gap, which is the index of relative concentration of plasma anions other than chloride and bicarbonate. So it is usually measured by the sodium ion minus chloride plus bicarbonate, and it usually range in the range of 12 plus or minus 4, means 8 to 16 milliequivalent per liter. But whenever patient is having hypoalbuminemia, we have to calculate the corrected anion gap, which is anion gap plus 2.5 multiplied by the albumin deficit. So, if we measure the anion gap, we can broadly classify metabolic acidosis into high anion gap metabolic acidosis, which is mostly due to the net gain of acid, and it can also be called as normochloremic metabolic acidosis, which is most commonly caused by the lactic acidosis, ketoacidosis, which is can be diabetes induced or alcohol induced, and renal failure, and toxin like methanol, propylene glycol, salicylate, ethylene, and paraldehyde iron induced toxicity can cause also high anion gap metabolic acidosis. So usually the mnemonics we use is MODPILES, and if anion gap is normal or less, then that is most likely due to hyperchloremic metabolic acidosis or normal anion gap metabolic acidosis, Mostly it is basically classified as one is GI cause due to GI bicarbonate loss or due to renal acidosis. So in GI bicarbonate loss, causes like diarrhea or external small bowel drainage like ureterosigmoidostomy and cholestyramine induced bile induced diarrhea and MgSO4. These all can cause GI loss of bicarbonate leading to the normal anion metabolic acidosis. And renal tubular acidosis type 1, type 2. This is the cause of normal anion metabolic acidosis with hypokalemia, but acetazolamide, potassium sparing diuretic, and trimethoprim and rapid saline infusion can cause high normal anion gap metabolic acidosis with hyperkalemia. So whenever we are getting normal anion gap metabolic acidosis, we have to determine the urine net chat or urine anion gap. So usually urine anion gap will be in negative -25 to -50. If it is negative, then most likely causes GI loss. If urine anion gap is positive, then most likely it is the cause is the renal tubular acidosis. So as name says, renal tubular acidosis will cause acidotic urine, so urine anion gap will be positive. So if patient is having high anion gap metabolic acidosis, then we have to go again for further classification by doing a delta ratio, which will give us if it is only high anion gap metabolic acidosis or it is associated with some other disorders. So usually it is calculated by the anion gap difference and delta anion gap divided by delta bicarbonate. So whatever our anion gap we measured, we have to subtract it by 12 and we will divide it by the measured bicarbonate, which is subtracted by 24. So this ratio we have to check. If it is less than 1, so it is a mixed disorder of high anion gap metabolic acidosis with normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. And if ratio is 1, then it will be 1 to 2, then we'll remember it as only isolated high anion gap metabolic acidosis. If this delta ratio is more than 2, so more likely there is some associated metabolic alkalosis is happening to the system. So what is the how much is the compensation in metabolic acidosis happen? So usually we should remember that this hydrogen ion, this positive ion is buffered by the extracellular fluid bicarbonate and hemoglobin in the RBC, and this form the H2CO3 which dissociates into CO2, and this CO2 get released by the lung by hyperventilation. So this hyperventilation is triggered by the low pH and by the central and peripheral chemoreceptor. So except PCO2, so what should be our expected PCO2 is calculated by the Winter's formula, which is determined by the 1.5 multiplied by the our actual bicarbonate plus 8 plus or minus 2. So it is for the if we are lacking of time, we just need to know how what should be the expected compensation. So quick rule of thumb is PCO2 should be the last 2 digits of the pH. If 7.12 is the pH, then PCO2 should be 12. So impact of metabolic acidosis into the system, most likely CNS, there will be patient will have lethargy, disorientation, stupor, and in severe metabolic acidosis patient can have also coma. And in CVS, there will be reduced myocardial contractility and resistance to the catecholamine. So, and in respiratory system, there will be hyperventilation due to the compensation. So, the next disorder is metabolic alkalosis. It is initiated due to the rise in serum bicarbonate ion or hydrogen ion loss. Usually, it is maintained by the decreased bicarbonate ion excretion or bicarbonate ion reabsorption. So it is usually seen in case of chloride depletion, potassium depletion, and magnesium depletion. Due to all this negative ion depletion, there will be compensatory reabsorption of bicarbonate ion, which will lead to metabolic alkalosis. And in case of extracellular fluid volume depletion also, there will be reabsorption of water along with bicarbonate ion in the renal tubules, which will cause the metabolic alkalosis. So to differentiate the causes of metabolic alkalosis, we can broadly classify into 3 groups. One is the exogenous increase in bicarbonate load, which is due to milk alkali syndrome or acute alkali administration. And due to GI causes like vomiting or gastric aspirate or bilious adenoma, which is causing to the release of hydrogen ion. This abnormality can cause also metabolic alkalosis, and renal cause are like diuretics, post the hypercapnic state, and hyperparathyroidism, and all the iron deficiencies. So whenever we are getting metabolic alkalosis, we can broadly classify it into the chloride responsive alkalosis or chloride resistant alkalosis. So for that you have to determine the urine chloride concentration. If it is less than 15, so most likely the causes are gastric acid loss or diuretic therapy, volume depletion, or renal compensation for hypercapnia. So these are usually responsive to the sodium chloride fluid resuscitation, and chloride resistant alkalosis like raised urinary chloride concentration will be more than 25, and this will not respond to the NaCl supplementation, and these are most likely in case of mineral corticoid excess, severe potassium depletion, and usually these are associated with volume expansion. So we have to correct the underlying cause rather than fluid resuscitation. So compensation of metabolic alkalosis is usually done by the respiratory system by hypoventilation, but it is rarely seen in our seen physiologically. Usually carbon dioxide retention seen, and it was calculated by the 0.75 increase in partial pressure of carbon dioxide per 1 milliequivalent liter of bicarbonate. So maximum compensation is 55 to 60. Beyond that is the mixed disorder. So up to this 60 mmHg of carbon dioxide will be we can achieve by the compensation. So in case of during the case of metabolic alkalosis, there will be reduced cerebral blood flow, and confusion and mental abundance is seen, and there will be decreased myocardial contractility and arrhythmias, and in respiratory system will get hypoventilation, and due to the hypoventilation will get pulmonary microatelectasis. So these are the basic ABG disorder. Then how to approach a patient with abnormal ABG. So I'm not going into detail in the procedural techniques and what are the flaws in that. We'll straightly discuss about how to interpret ABG. So whenever we are getting one ABG, we have to check the validity, followed by the assess the if it is acidic or alkalotic. Then we have to decide which is the primary cause. If it is metabolic, then we have to go for anion gap, and further we can go with urine anion gap, or there is a delta ratio to look for any additional disorder is there or not. And if it is metabolic acidosis, if there is enough compensation or not enough compensation, we have to see. And if it is respiratory, then we have to go for it if it is acute or chronic, and compensation is adequate or not. So we'll discuss this thing with one clinical case. So one 50-year-old male came to emergency department after traveling Delhi. His symptoms included persistent diarrhea and rapid respiration. So ABG came as PS 7.10, PCO is 20.6, PO is 88, and bicarbonate is 3.7. So before interpreting this ABG, because usually when we are interpreting, we are in very rush, so we'll straight away try to tell it is metabolic or respiratory, but we always forget to check the validity. So first we have to check the validity. As pH is 7.10, so if we go to a table, I will show you in the next slide that there is normal H plus ion and pH table. So according to that, 7.1 is it correlates with the 79 of H plus ion. But if we calculate H plus ion according to the formula, that will be 24 into CO2 by bicarbonate. So in this formula, 24 into CO2 is 20 by bicarbonate is 33.7. It will come about 130. So it is not matching. So it is invalid ABG. So we should not interpret this ABG. We should go ahead with the repeat ABG. So this is the most common flaws we usually do. So this is the reference table for the pH versus hydrogen ion. So usually it is a thumb rule we can remember that 7.4 is correlate with 40. So whatever pH we have to last two digit we have to add with the hydrogen ion, it will make sense to make around 80. So 40 plus 40 is 80, 45 plus 35 is 80. But in the extreme it is not same. So most likely the near above value will correlate accordingly. So let's discuss our second case. So patient came with this ABG. So according to our approach, we'll see if it is valid or not. So S plus calculated is 24 into bicarbonate, carbon dioxide is 35 divided by our bicarbonate. It is coming around 76. And I told you initially, each is 7.1. If you see the previous table, then it will be 79. H plus ion will be 79. So it is valid because the value is near about same. So second step will be is it acidic or alkalotic? Everybody will say 7.1 is less than 7.35, it is acidic. So step 3, it is metabolic or not. So if you see the pH and bicarbonate ion both going in the same direction, means pH is decreasing and bicarbonate also decreasing, so it is metabolic. So next step is that if it is what is the anion gap. So from this table we can calculate the anion gap is 6. So it is normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. So now we got normal anion gap metabolic acid. So to know further detail, we should determine the urine anion gap, but which is not there. So next thing we'll assess is our if there is enough compensation or not. So according to the formula, so in metabolic acidosis, the compensation should be 1.5 into the bicarbonate plus 8 or plus or minus 2. So it will come around 22 to 26.5. So, but in this patient, CO2 is 35. So it is not reached to the compensation. So it is a partially compensation. It has been done. So it is a partially compensated normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. Sorry, that is wrongly acidosis. So we'll discuss the case 3. So similarly, this patient came with a pH of 7.31, PCO2 of 10, bicarbonate of 5, and sodium of 123 and potassium of 5. Chloride is 99. So if we put our formula, this is correlating H plus ion and the pH value. So it is valid ABG. Then pH is 7.3, it is acidosis. And both are going in the same direction. pH acidosis is due to loss in bicarbonate, so it is metabolic. And anion gap, if you calculate, so it will be 24. So it is high anion gap metabolic acidosis. Then next step is to determine the delta ratio, which will be 24 minus 12. 24 is our base value, and here we calculate. Here our anion gap is 24. We have to minus 12 from that, and divided by 24 minus 5 is our bicarbonate. So it will come around 12 by 19, which is 0.6, which is less than 1. So it is high anion gap with normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. So then we have to check for respiratory compensation. So in this case, PaCO2 should be 1.5 into our bicarbonate plus 8 or plus or minus 2. So it will be ranging within 7.5 to 13.5. But in this patient, PaCO2 is ABG is 10 mmHg. So it is overcompensated. So there is never been overcompensation by physiology. So it is a mixed disorder. So it is associated with respiratory alkalosis. So this is a mixed acid-base disorder, both with high anion gap, normal anion gap metabolic acidosis with respiratory alkalosis. So these are the basic thing we discuss in this class. And but there are mixed acid-base disorder, which is there is that we have to deal separately. Due to constraint of time, I could not discuss it today, but maybe in future class we'll discuss regarding mixed disorder, mixed acid-base disorder.